A really important part of my work actually is alchemy. It's about taking pain and transforming it and processing into something beautiful. So I consider myself an alchemist in that respect, making pain not the end point, but the fertilizer that creates something beautiful. My name is Diane Goldie. I'm a multidisciplinary artist working primarily in textile. I also paint and I sculpt and I write. I'm often mistakenly described as a designer. And I realise that's because people don't really have language for who I am. They see that I make clothes, so automatically they go to fashion. But actually, as an artist, I stand really separate from fashion because I'm not about trends, I'm not about people wearing what somebody else has dictated they should wear, but I'm more about empowering the individual to really discover who they are and then wear their own particular style on their back. Welcome to my palace of chaos. I know to an outside person this might look like just mess, but to me this is actually an intricate filing system that serves the way that my brain works. Even though it's messy, I know where everything is, and because I have a kind of brain that suffers from object impermanence, it means that if something is out of sight, it's out of mind, and I forget it's there. So that's why I have to have things on display so I know what there is to select from. Otherwise, if it's put away tidily and put in a drawer with a label on it, I'll forget it's even there. In my early 20s, I found myself in a position where I was a young mum with a new baby and an insatiable need to still create. But I didn't have the time, space needed necessary for me to sink into a painting kind of process. I needed to have something I could pick up and put down. So I started to create these strange soft sculptures, so little bits of sewing that I could pick up between breastfeeds and nappy changes. They were all made from soft fabric, some t-shirt material, chicken wire and newspaper, and various bits of wigs that I found in Brixton market. And I would sit for hours just sewing and twisting and manipulating until I got what I needed. And I suppose it forms the precursor of my wearable art, as in it was fabric and textiles that I was working with, whereas this is in a sculptural form. This is more two-dimensional, but actually once it's on your body it is a sculptural form as well. So this is the strange beginnings of what I do today. I don't often show people my process, so this is very special. Because actually when I'm in the flow doing things for people, to set up a camera and record myself would actually just it would take me out of the flow, and it would make no sense. Because, you know, when it needs to be done, it needs to be done. So this is typical me. Put one thing next to another and go, that looks quite fun. And this is how I do it. It literally, it just is following my intuition. I do it and there's no decisions. It's just a flow. It's just I do it. My hands have to do it. That's it. The decisions are already made. In my bespoke work, there are 3 separate avenues. I do, first and foremost, a robe that honours passing of the loved ones. So I call them ancestor robes or grief robes, where you can take an image of your loved one. I could put it on either on your back, or I could put it next to your heart inside if you don't want to be observed in your grief. And the next one is what I call my author of the gaze robe. I do those mainly for women. I encourage women to have their own image on their back. So they're authoring the gaze instead of being perceived through male gaze or through anybody else's gaze. They are actually authoring it on how they want to be seen. And it's about women showing up and having their own back. And the third type of robe I do is a general inner world, wearing your inner world on your outside. And that is a form of social lubricant, so that if you go into a social setting where you're feeling uncomfortable, you can wear on your outside aspects of your life in symbol form that help you replace a need for small talk. So you can talk about your robe, and at the same time you're sharing and not oversharing about who you are. One misconception people often have when they discover me, they might like what I wear or what they see on my page, but they always say to me, oh, I could never wear that because I don't like colour, or I feel uncomfortable in colour. The thing is that you don't have to be like me for me to work with you. I try and fulfill what you want to be. So if you're all about black and texture, we work with that. I spent the years between 11 and 21 in apartheid South Africa, which is where I really celebrated my love for African fabrics and also the use of bright colour. And it also really informed my politics. It really created the justice-seeking person that I am now, really, really focused on the political aspect of life. I know it may be seen as quite controversial that I do use fabrics that aren't from my own cultural background, but I do make sure that I research the meaning. So when I'm using various fabrics, I'll make sure that I understand the meaning behind the symbols, and then I'm not just using them as surface decoration. I do work for many women from the African diaspora that are living here, and I have relationships with these women, and they are all very comfortable with me doing this kind of work. So my intention is not to appropriate, but more to honour and to encourage looking beyond the borders and looking actually underneath at what connects us rather than what separates us. And that's kind of inherent in the fabric. It's inherent in threads, joining threads together, joining fabric together, joining a mosaic, a tapestry together of human beings. So we're more than just the packaging. We are the soul contained in the packaging. So who am I as an artist? What drives me? As an autistic artist, I have a very, very strong sense of justice. And so politics is actually the thing that drives me the most. Reflecting about what's going on outside there in the globe and trying to make sense of the nonsensical, basically, the political games that are going on out there. So my work is definitely informed by all of that. On a more personal level, I'm about celebrating like my local area. I live in Brixton, and for me it's like the perfect sort of microcosm of the London that I really enjoy. It's about that melting pot of all different cultures and all different people coming together and living in harmony. Of course it has its issues, like all places do. When you put a lot of people together, you're always going to get like friction points, but in general we are a really great community and we all live alongside each other very beautifully. I want to sort of get across that it's a beautiful place to be, although the gentrification is getting a little out of order, but that's another conversation for another day. I'm also about representing the outsider. This dress here was created to honour Sinead O'Connor when she passed, as a very proud warrior woman who was very much seen as a crazy woman. So this is where the sort of feminist and the gender politics come into it as well. But after she died, we realised that she was right when she ripped up that photograph of the Pope on stage and really got a massive backlash for it. This is me trying to honour her by ripping up a picture of a Pope and then crocheting it all back together again. I'm representing the dangerous woman, the too loud woman, the too much woman. and saying that you have a place here too. I am about standing in your absolute essence, in your authenticity, being exactly who you are, unfiltered, unmasked, unapologetic. Be loud, proud, and dangerous. You know, just be who you are. Because I think the more of us do that, the better this world will be. Let me take you on a tour of my childhood in the 1970s. Here we have Gary Glitter. He was my first crush. I remember watching him on Top of the Pops singing, "Do you want to touch?" Yeah. And I loved him. And interesting, because I went on to be groomed at 13 by a much older man. The 1970s were a strange time. And, you know, here's the devil himself, Jimmy Savile. I've written at the bottom, what hope did we have when fed romanticized necrophilia as kids? Now, what am I talking about that? What that's about is what's underneath this banner here that says censored by capitalism. If you look closely, you'll find it's Sleeping Beauty being kissed by the prince. And I couldn't show that in my painting because I will get sued by Disney Corp. So that's why it says censored by capitalism. Because I wanted to include that aspect, but at the same time I didn't want to get myself into any hot water because they are so litigious. This is me as an adult woman, as Medusa, but it's inspired by the fact that when I was a child, I used to go to sleep and spread my hair out on my pillow in the kind of ways as the snakes are indicating here. I would spread my hair out in a halo on the pillow just in case my prince came in the night to take me away on his white horse. And that was the number that Disney had done on my brain as a child. And of course led to all kinds of vulnerabilities later on down the line as an autistic child, leaving me open to being groomed. Quite disturbing and disgusting painting, to be fair, but I enjoy it. And so who is this person next to me? This is Fifi the baby fairy.
What, me?
Yes, you.
Hi. Hi! I'm on the camera.
You are on the camera, yes you are. Now, Fifi.
Yeah?
Now, you used to come with me when I used to be a children's entertainer, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you used to say hello to all the boys and girls, didn't you?
Yeah. And the teachers.
And the teachers. And the teachers didn't like you very much, did they?
No, they were scared of me.
They were scared of you.
Especially the boys.
The boys? Oh, you mean the men?
Yeah, the men.
The boys loved you though, didn't they?
Yeah. The boys would get really, really excited to see me.
They would, wouldn't they? We discovered something really interesting about young boys at school.
Yeah.
That once we got over the fact that you were a fairy and we let them say yuck.
Yeah, they would say, look, she's ugly. That's yucky. It's a fairy.
And once they realised you were naughty,
Yeah.
then they loved you, didn't they?
Yeah.
They did. And what would they do?
They would hug me and kiss me and tell they loved me.
That's right. And they never wanted to let you go, did they?
No.
And it's very lovely to see that.
Yeah.
Because what happens?
Little boys are made to grow up too quick.
That's right. It's true.
Yeah, and I loved them.
You loved them.
Yeah.
So you see, Fifi, what Fifi is for me, she became like my permission to speak. Permission to speak my truth. I haven't always known that I'm autistic. I got my diagnosis in January.
You're autistic?
Yes, I am.
Oh, you're a weirdo.
Says you.
Yeah.
I am a weirdo and I'm a proud weirdo. I like being a weirdo. There's something in that for me.
Oh, yeah.
And you're a weirdo too.
Yeah.
Good.
We're weirdos together.
We are weirdos together. That's right. So until I realised I was autistic, Fifi was my mouthpiece. She was my unfiltered, unmasked self, giving me permission to speak my truth. So yeah, that's Fifi. An interesting character. An ugly fairy on purpose because I wanted to kind of get underneath what a fairy looks like. And in a way that sort of got underneath all of the ideas of what beauty is. Because what I would say to children is that, is Fifi pretty? And they would always say, yes, she is. And I'd put her to sleep. And I'd say, okay, let me ask that question again. Is Fifi pretty? And they go, not really, no. And then I would say, but do you like her? And they would say, yes, we love her. So I'd say, does that mean you have to be pretty to be popular? And then you would see the light bulb go on with the children. And they go, no, you don't. I said, what really matters, right, is what's inside, doesn't it? And that was really like important work that I was doing with the children, because it really, especially with the young girls, when they thought it was all about the outside, that's where the feminism comes in, right? This is not about objectification of the female form. Being pretty is actually not important. Being beautiful is not important. Fifi proved that to the children. And so that was that's where my politics started, was when I was a children's entertainer. As part of my art practice, it's all about being authentic. And part of that journey of discovering who I was getting my diagnosis for ADHD and autism, linked in with the death of my daughter, who died thinking she was broken. And after she died, I was absolutely compelled to work out why. And that's how I discovered my own neurodivergence and that of the rest of my family. And this particular book that I wrote basically is the journey of discovering it through going right back throughout my life and writing about it. And then through writing down, observing patterns, but also bringing it right back to the present moment and talking about Imogen and allowing her story to come through as well. So it's called We Accept Her, One of Us. It's self-published. It's also illustrated with my illustrations as well as Imogen's illustrations. And apparently it's a bloody good read. And it's actually easy to read, which for fellow ADHD people, I think that's really important to know. I write like I speak, so it's actually not hard to take on board. So We Accept Her, One of Us by me, Diane Goldie. This piece here was one of the very first pieces I created for myself ever. And it came to pass after I watched a video of Eartha Kitt on YouTube talking about compromise, where she was being interviewed by a 1970s journalist who was trying to insinuate that she was a difficult woman, or maybe potentially narcissistic, and that's why she didn't have a partner. And he asked her this question. He said, would Eartha Kitt compromise for love? And Eartha Kitt just threw back her head, no makeup, hair just natural, and laughed, this massive throaty laugh. And at that point, I just felt goosebumps all over me, because I saw a woman so secure in who she was, so understanding of her strength, that this man couldn't touch her. And she just laughed at him and said, compromise for what? And I just thought, yes, that is what it's all about. And so this kimono was born. It's Frida Kahlo as Medusa, which became this sort of really important totem for me at the time. This sort of woman that defies the male gaze, and she encouraged her facial hair when she painted herself. And of course, Medusa with everything that goes with that. But then I came up with these two lines that literally, it just came to me as I was putting it together. And it was, a woman who loves herself is a dangerous woman, as in dangerous to patriarchy, about undoing the whole system. And then at the bottom, the other strapline was sisterhood is subversive, when I realized that if women came together and understood their strength and understood not to bitch about one another, to actually bond together, we would naturally overthrow the system. There would be nothing that would stop us. So this is kind of my power piece. Also, it has like massive long sleeves, so it really forces the person, the woman, to stand in her power and take up as much space as possible. This piece actually started before I started making wearables, and I actually took a painting and I put it underneath my sewing machine and started sewing into it. And it's a very personal piece about my mother and my father and my stepfather. And my stepfather committed suicide and my dad died after my mum divorced him. And that's my stepfather's suicide note. It's really heavy. It's a really heavy painting. But it was me working out all of my anger and all of my trauma around my mother, who was very damaged human. She's long dead now, but I hope she's resting well. But yeah, she wouldn't have liked this at all, but it was me expressing what I had to express. And it was better than it was out than stuck inside of me. So, you know, that's one of the reasons why we do art. It's because we must. Yeah, thou shalt be wed and thou shalt be dead. It's like every time my mother got married, that man was doomed. It was a bit like a black widow spider. Yeah. Poor mum. She struggled. One day I decided that I was going to paint. Well, it was after I got divorced and I kind of went a little bit crazy with the freedom of it all to express myself in my home. And so I'd always wanted to have angels painted on my ceiling, like the Sistine Chapel. So I got a book for a reference and I saw one that I really liked and I thought, yay, there we go, we can have the Virgin Mary surrounded by angels. And I started painting. I thought, wait a minute, why is this woman holding her breast and why she got long red hair? Only to discover I'd painted Mary Magdalene, what actually turned out to be a far better fit. And she's presided over me for a while now. I never finished it because I basically was balancing on top of a chair and with my head back like that and a paintbrush in my hand. It was very uncomfortable. I didn't have the scaffolding that Michelangelo had. So I gave it up because of too much pain. But so it is, on the unfinished. Just like my life, unfinished. It's not perfect, her face is very peculiar, but I like it.
We arrived on man in rapture with a grin from ear to ear, and I've been trying to absorb all of the beauty there is here. We arrived, two hungry monsters with the waves lapping around us, and there's nothing stopping us from jumping in and swimming out too far again.
One of the weird things about me is that sometimes when I wake up in the morning, I have full phrases that come straight out my mouth and fully formed. And this painting is the result of one of those phrases. And it's on the bottom here in the text where it says, "In the desert of same, we the different, like flowers after rain." It's a bit strange to wake up saying that. But I sat with that phrase and I realised it's talking about being neurodivergent, living in this society. We're all kind of in amongst all the typicality, the sameness, in the desert of same, because without the neurodivergent people, it would all be pretty much one note. And we the different, as in the neurodivergence, like flowers after rain. And what is the rain in that context? The rain is tears. The rain is trauma, and it's so it's speaking to the fact that we come to our creativity often through the alchemy of pain. And basically, that's me sleeping there and kind of receiving this message from spirit. And over here is my late daughter Imogen, who's delivering the message. She's jumping through. And she's surrounded by doodles that she always used to do of dandelions and dandelion clocks. She was absolutely obsessed with them. And, you know, there's something very beautiful and ethereal about the dandelion clock and its kind of fragility and the connection with time, and time being fragile and precious. So here she is delivering the message, jumping through. So yeah, that's what that one's about. Also, the butterfly at the top there was a very personal symbol. I had a butterfly exactly like that one, a peacock butterfly, just appear in my bathroom after my daughter died and land on my stomach. A very strange thing to happen, but I knew it was her. Call me crazy, but I knew it was her.
Soak my face
A really important part of my work actually is alchemy. It's about taking pain and transforming it and processing into something beautiful. I've lived through a lot of grief. My daughter's death 10 years ago was the starting point of me really coming to terms with that. And I use symbols in my work all the time. I use skulls quite a lot. I use a lotus flower, all about processing pain and making it into something more beautiful. Butterflies as well, about transformation. So I consider myself an alchemist in that respect, taking the very human experience of pain and turning it into something that other people can observe and get something out of. Making pain not the end point, but the fertilizer that creates something beautiful.
Before, and there's still so much time to get ourselves creatively in gear. So I'm still fearing, but I know that it won't leave me till I'm